position here. Good. And welcome to Football House. As customary, before we go into the official proceedings, let's submit to Allah to seek His blessings on this program. Silent prayers. May Allah accept all our prayers. Thank you very much, and once again, welcome to Football House in this maiden press conference convened by the National Scorpions of the Gambia under head coach Jonathan McKinstry and his backroom staff, where we will be unveiling the Scorpions squad, but also for the coach McKinstry to explain his process of selection and also his preparation ahead of our double World Cup qualifiers against Seychelles and Gabon, which is going to be played next month. And later, when the coach is done, we will turn the baton to members of the media to ask your questions, your queries, your doubts, your concerns, and maybe you can even suggest to coach as to how we can beat our two next opponents. But before we go into that, allow me to just do a brief introduction of the technical staff, or the backroom staff. The coach is no longer a stranger, he's a household name, Jonathan McKinstry, he's an Irish, assisted by Alaji Saab and Abdou Jammeh, flanked on either side. At the back is Alaji Maram, goalkeeper coach. Close to him is Mr. Landing Jaju, is the team doctor. Mustafa Kasama is the equipment and kits manager. And Abdullahi Damfa is also part of the backroom staff, assisting in the kits and equipment items of the national team. The team manager is stood around, but is as usual the team manager, Mr. Osman Drame. And I am your colleague, Bakari Bibalde, serving as moderator for this program. Once again, you are most welcome. Without much ado, let's transfer all the baton to Coach McKinstry to help us in the selection process, but also explain his preparation ahead of Seychelles and Gabon. Coach, the baton is all yours, and you are most welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. It's good to see so much interest, so many people here to sort of get our message and the names, out to the general public. I think the media will play a big role over the coming years in terms of our connection with our supporters, so that there's a good understanding in what we're trying to do and the journey that we're going to go on together, because you will play your role in it as well. So, look, I think the easiest way to do this is for me to name the squad, and then we can sort of have a bit of a Q&A on it. We've tried to get quite a lot of balance in the squad in terms of positions, in terms of experience, in terms of youth, but also, and we'll go into it a little bit later on, there's also quite a number of injuries that mean we've had to sort of pivot in one or two positions, and we see quite a few new names in the group. Okay, so without further ado, we've named a squad of 24 players for these upcoming two qualifiers in Morocco and in Gabon. The goalkeepers are Ibrima Jarju, Sheikh Sibi, Modu Laminsar. The defenders, Saini Sanyang, Omar Gay, Mohamed Sana, Dadi Dudu Gay, Omar Kali, Idrissa Cisse, and Dembo Saidi Khan. The central midfielders, Ebu Adams, Yusuf Abob, Alassane Mane, and Mamadou Badjo. In the attacking line, we've got Moussa Barrow, Moussa Jawara, Aliou Fadera, Yankuba Minte, Ablai Jallo, Ibrima Kole, Abdoulaye Sanyang. And then the strikers are Mohamed Badamosi, Adama Bojang, and Adama Sidibe. So that's the 24-man list that will be traveling with us to Morocco for the first game against the Seychelles, and then onwards to the second game against Gabon. Just to add to what the moderator had said, in terms of our coaching staff, obviously a lot of these faces and names around me you'll know very well. We will also be welcoming 3 international staff into the group. Those are our assistant coach responsible for performance, sports science, Mikhail Agendia. We will be inviting an assistant coach in charge of analysis, Mr. Milad Samadi, an Irish national, and also then a physiotherapist who is Mr. Brendan Culhane, another Irish national. So the 3 of them will be joining us in Morocco, and they'll be working together with our domestic staff here to make sure the players are well facilitated and well looked after, and to make sure we get those high performance levels. Okay? So I think for me it's about questions from these guys, because I'm sure they'll have 1 or 2.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's the unveiling of the squad list, and now we will go into the question and answer. And before we do that, please allow me to welcome and introduce Executive Committee member, Mr. Ismaila Cisse. Mr. Cisse, you are most welcome. The Technical Director of the Gambia Football Federation, Sanga John Down, seated at the back. Coach, you are also most welcome. So the party is, now the General Secretary has just strolled in.
No. You are the. I don't want to. I need to stand there. Huh?
No.
Yes, sir. Fine, sir. You are welcome. As the General Secretary, no stranger to any one of us, Mr. Lamin Jassi. And behind me is the coordinator for regional coaches, Mr. Lamin Sambo, and he was formerly assistant coach for the under-17 national team. Baba Nada, you are most welcome. I just want to reiterate that questions solely should be apportioned to the head coach, only to the head coach. All questions, please, let's direct them to the head coach. If you have questions for either of the assistant coaches or even backroom staff, let's do them at the corridors or outside of this press conference. But the press conference primarily is for Coach Jonathan McKinstry to unveil his squad list and also explain his preparation ahead of meeting Seychelles and Gabon. So please, okay? And I crave your indulgence to abide by that. Thank you so very much. Let's do the question and answer. Anyone who has a question, a query, raise your hand up and go ahead. Yes.
Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
My name is Baikor from Star TV. Congratulations for the second time for having this responsibility. We know the time is very short, and we just wish and hope such like this is a continuation. So that, as you said, we are the mouthpiece of the public. Our responsibility is to designate accurate information, not rumors. The only way we can achieve that is such like this. My first question is to give the floor to my mates is, given the limited time before the qualifiers, how do you plan to quickly assess the current squad and identify the key players you just called who will be instrumental in securing positive results against Seychelles and Gabon?
Thank you. So international football is always a short amount of time. You know, gone are the days where we could prepare teams for 3 or 4 weeks before an international fixture. And that's because of the global nature of the game. It used to be years ago, and I'm sure you all remember even here within Gambian football, where maybe the majority of the team were a home-based team. And so the idea of a FIFA window didn't necessarily matter as much, because if your players are all home-based, then you can agree with the federation to suspend the league for an extra week or 2, and you get more preparation time. But the nature of the global game that we live in now is that players are coming from all over the world. You know, you look at the number of countries our players are playing in, we only have those 5 days. And that's the same for all. It's the same for the English national team, for the Brazilian national team, for the Japanese national team. So a short time is the nature of the work we're in now. My job in terms of assessing these players didn't just start today. You know, even in my sort of considerations to come here and work with the Gambian Football Federation, I was looking at the players. Both the players who'd been at the recent AFCONs, the players who had maybe just missed out, the players who were involved in the U20 selections over the last year. So already I had an idea of what the players are capable of. Players that fit into my style of play, because every coach has his own style of play. So already I had a group of players in my mind. And look, I'll be honest with you, before I had even agreed the final version of the contract, I already on notepaper in my office at home had started sketching out what my first squad might look like. Now that has changed a little bit because with injuries, with player availability, like I said, you have to pivot. And we have, I think the list of injuries is sort of 11, 12 players long who might have been included in the squad. So we had to pivot with that. But I'm confident that the group we've got together will be able to go out and play in a fashion that represents me and the Gambia well. But like I said in my introductory press conference, I think the way the team will play this coming week is not the same as it will play in a year's time. There's an evolution we have to go through as a team, but yeah, I think I know the players. I've obviously relied on the knowledge of the staff who've been here and who are joining us, but yeah, I'm confident that the guys we have are ready, they're fit, they're playing regularly, which is the important thing. If you look down at the number of appearances that almost all of this squad have, they've all played 25, 30, 35 times this season. So nobody's been sat on the bench, and they're ready to go, and having spoken to them, they're ready to compete and they're ready to win.
It's a follow-up question
Yep.
to give the floor. You've take time to call the list of the 24 players. And as you said, before you take the job, you have in mind, you make your mindset of the players you will include in your first squad. Unfortunately, it's football, everything is possible. You have some players who are injured. For the benefit of the public to designate that information, if it is not a secret, can you kindly let us know who are those players injured, where in your plan, due to injury you left them out?
Yeah, so in general, and I also have to be clear about in your plan, when you have an injury, you don't have to make that decision anymore. So there might have been some players on that list where I was thinking, okay, maybe I go direction A, maybe I go direction B. But when you know that player's injured, you no longer have the choice to make. You simply go direction B. And so it's not that this player is injured and would have definitely been in the squad. I just no longer had to make that consideration, if you understand me. And so, yeah, our list of injuries, quite significant. Babukar Gay, goalkeeper, is still in the recovery phase. If the game had been in 3 weeks' time, maybe he might have been possible, but not now. Jacob Mendy, hamstring injury, still recovering. Ibu Turai, ankle injury, out. James Gomez, Achilles injury. You might have noticed in the last few weeks, he's sort of been playing for his team, but coming off at half time, and in their final game was on the bench, played like 8 minutes, but his Achilles isn't good. Noah Sundberg is going to London to have his back assessed. Alaji Sane, very unfortunate young player, has a shin injury that he's going to be out for the next 6 weeks. Ibrahim Adarbo, quad injury. Suleiman Mane, still in the recovery phase. Hamza Barry pulled his hamstring in the last game of the season. Asan Cisse, still in the recovery phase of his injury. Ali So underwent minor surgery a couple of days ago, and so is unavailable for the next 3 weeks. So these guys all, there wasn't even a consideration of A or B, because we knew that they simply physically weren't going to be available. I think 1 or 2 of them, if we'd asked to come, probably would have came and tried, because they're maybe 70%. But again, for me, you need to be as close to 100% as possible to play for your national team. So yeah, we wish those guys the best of luck. We'll be tracking their recovery from those injuries, and we hope come September they're all available for selection, and it gives me and the technical bench a much more deeper decision to make in terms of who we select. But on this occasion, we go with the other guys.
Thank you very much.
Let's take another.
You're welcome.
Another different hand.
Yes.
Yes, Kasim. Yeah.
Coach, good morning,
Good morning.
and congratulations on signing a new contract with Gambia national team. My name is Cassie Oscar. I represent Wales Media, MBD Sports, Star FM. Yeah. Recently, I cover more basket than football. Hope to see you one more time. So sometime toward our days.
Yeah.
But like, this team has been, I can say, one of the youngest teams ever to play for the Gambia national team. A lot of youngsters, Sini Sanyang, Dembo Sindikan. There's a player in England, Alassane Diatta, who is playing in the League 2, I guess. He's in form, scoring goals and fit, but it's not anything. Can you give us any reason why?
Well, Alassane obviously hasn't played since the 3rd of April. So he transferred to Notts County, had a fantastic start. I think it was 6 goals in 10 games, maybe 5, maybe 6. I think it was 5 goals in 10 games. But obviously hasn't played a single minute since the 3rd of April was the last game he played. And so again, in terms of, we're fully aware of him, we're tracking him, but not having played a football match in 2 months, I think you would agree is not the best preparation for playing for a national team. So he's on our radar. Pre-season into September, he'll be under consideration, but he needs to be playing regularly, and that hasn't been happening for the last 2 months.
Thank you, Cassie. Okay. Yes.
Yes, it has been written like in your earlier career, like in LSU development, you passed through Newcastle United, New York Red Bulls, also with Craig Bellamy Foundation, you write your Dream Academy. Now, Craig Bellamy himself, he has been appointed as the interim manager for Burnley FC, together with Mike Jackson as the assistant. So, like, due to Craig Bellamy Foundation, what are some of the strategic plans you learned there and you want to use in order to serve as an impact on our Gambian football?
Well, I think obviously we want to try and keep things quite narrowly focused today on this national team camp. However, you know, part of my secondary role here beyond the national team is to help grow the game. There's plans in place for that. You know, I've actually met yesterday with all of the Coaches Association here in the Gambia, a lot of the 1st and 2nd division coaches, because we're on this journey together to grow the game in the Gambia. And so where I can help in terms of strategic, you know, the development of our young players, the opportunity for young players, and I hope what people see from this first squad is that the door is open for our elite young talented players. You know, we've given opportunity to 4 of the U20 players from last year, but that's not just been because they're young players. They're also high performing players. So, you know, the likes of Bojang, the likes of Bajo, Seni, and who else did we put up from the youth team? And Dembo Sadi Khan. You know, the 4 of them are doing very well in their environments, and the reports we're getting back from them is very good. And so it's not just because they're young that we're moving them into the senior team. That's not the objective. The objective is not to have a young national team. That's nice if you can have it. The objective is to have a high-performing national team. And so for me, my history is that I'll always have the door open. I'll support the Coaches Association. I'll support the technical department. But the primary objective is to win with the senior national team. When there is time and opportunity to do those other objectives, we're going to do them, but not at the expense of performance.
So secondly, like what are some of the tactics you will put in your plan? For example, if you, let's say, really put your formation and you believe that it's not working, things are not going according to plan. So what are some of the things you will do in order to carry this?
Well, the first objective is to make sure that Plan A works. You know, I think you've asked what Plan B and Plan C is. I think the first objective is to make sure Plan A works. And look, I think for our guys, we've already said in the opening sort of press conference a few days ago, we want to get the ball to our match winners as often as possible. You know, you look at some of the guys, especially in the forward line for the team, the guys like, you know, Ablai, like Musa, like Yankuba, like, you know, Abdullah, Ibrahima. We want to get the ball at these guys' feet, because the more often they have the ball at their feet and they have their teammates close to them, then they're going to be able to make magic happen. that's the aim of the game, and I think that's what the players want to have happening. I think it's what the support base want to have happening. So that's our strategic focus. There's different layers to that. I've already said this. You know, a home game against a smaller nation, you maybe treat differently to an away game against the #1 ranked nation. There's layers to how we play, but for us, full focus is on plan A. We want to take the game to our opponents. We want to play good football. We want to play attacking football. But also we need to be robust and we need to be ready to defend in those moments of the game.
Finally, are you so corrected?
Sorry.
6 points.
Is it a follow-up question? No. Let's allow only 2 questions to
Yeah, I
me.
know.
Yes, Sir Ian.
Right. Jonathan, once again, congratulations and welcome to Football. Well, in reference to your last press conference, you said we should not be quick to discard something that have done us a lot of good,
Yep.
in reference to the players that have been here before. And you also made reference that you are always very much open to giving young players the chance, giving a 16-year-old player in Sierra Leone to play for the national team. And here we are giving us a mixed themes in terms of youth and experience. How difficult was it for you to make the balance, and going forward, I know you're open to giving chances to everybody. Going forward, are we going to expect a similar team in terms of team average and blending the young and the relatively older players? What should we expect from you going forward?
Yeah, look, picking a national team squad is never easy because, and especially when you've got a lot of players who are playing at good levels of the game. You know, here in the Gambia, we're incredibly blessed in that, you know, I've been with national teams before where players, you have to maybe bring players who aren't playing as many minutes as you'd like. But you look at the squad that we've named here, and there's going to be guys on the substitutes bench in the matches who are playing 30 games for their clubs. And in a lot of national teams, especially for countries the size of the Gambia, if you're playing 30 games for your club side at a top level, you would expect to start for your national team. But we're very blessed and very fortunate that we're going to have a subs bench that has players who are playing lots of minutes for top level clubs. So that makes the process of selecting a national squad challenging. The other thing that maybe gets misunderstood is the national team is not the best 23 players. It's the 23 players who can play the best together. And sometimes we have, look, the nature of Gambian football is that there's a lot of attacking talent out there. There's good defensive talent as well, but the depth in the defensive positions is maybe a bit less than positions. I assume Brazil and Argentina have a similar challenge. Yeah. So in that sense, we've left out some really good players who will be disappointed not to be in the 24-man squad, but who shouldn't get disheartened because they will get their opportunity. They just need to keep pushing. We're tracking them. We're looking forward to bring them in. But yeah, it's about bringing together the players who we think will gel well together, who will perform at a high level together. And that mixture of youth and experience is good because, look, the experienced players are serious. They've had the success in their career because they're serious. But it's also nice to light a little nose up. If I don't perform to my maximum, there's this kid who's ready to take my shirt. But equally, that young player, he has to take the shirt off the guy who's got 40 caps, 50 for places in the national team. And if we do that, we're going to reach some really special places over the next 2 years.
Thank you. Yeah, Amadou, yes.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Jonathan. My name is Amadou. We've seen a very good list. Looking at your CV and your track record, coach always wants to play the system, but it might be too premature to talk about the system. But how much time the system and play like the way you want them to play? The follow-up question to that is, when are you expecting yourselves and then going to Franceville against Gabon? The third question is, we've seen the who is the first assistant coach? Can you confirm to us who is the first assistant coach of the national team?
Okay. So in terms of, again, I love when people ask Interesting questions. I would say probably less than 5% of my games as a coach have been 4-4-2. I almost never play 4-4-2. So again, information. But that's not to say I've never played it. You know, we do. If the players that we have mean that that's the best choice of formation. Formation is less important. Formation is sort of how you line up at kickoff. But if you think about it, even in a 4-4-2, in the attacking phase, the wingers are probably getting forward and the fullbacks are getting forward. So in the attacking phase, you're maybe playing 2-4-4. You know, so formations is how you kick off. More is about the strategy in terms of, you know, how do we want to press the game? What do we do in possession? How quick do we want to play? You know, how many passes do we want to generally have before we go forward? All of these stylistic things are more important than the formation, because the style and the game model can be implemented regardless of 3-5-2, 4-3-3, 4-4-2. Doesn't matter the formation. The formation is about what specific players do you have, whereas the style is general across the board. So for us, the formation's less important. In terms of how long will it take to get these players sort of together, that was also a consideration in selecting the squad. You know, we have 11 players in that squad who were not at AFCON. 7 of them are not at AFCON. But I also would have to say some of the decisions we didn't want to make starting from zero. Whereas what we have there is we've got 13 guys who were at AFCON with experience, with high quality, who mean that the continuity is still there. So their togetherness is still there. Their guys into the team and bring it together as a group is there, intact. And so I think in terms of us going out and performing, I expect that to happen straight away. I repeat, will we get to... This is part of the journey. In 12 months' time and 18 months' time, I hope if we're doing our job correctly, we'll have evolved significantly to how we play against. It's the first game in a journey. The way Arsenal played in their first game under Mikel Arteta is not the same as how they played in their most recent game under him. The intention was always the same. Coaching staff, you'll notice when I told you even about the staff that aren't in the room, I called them all assistant coaches, because that's the first assistant coach to me is the first one to turn up and who makes the coffee, you know, in the room. That's the first one in the morning. But for me, everyone has an equal voice. I expect everyone to communicate their ideas. I have an assistant coach sports science. I have assistant coaches who are responsible for more general field coaching. I have assistant coaches who are responsible for analysis. So everyone has the same level of voice to me. A good idea can come from anywhere. Equally, a bad idea can come from anywhere. And so what I want is people to have their voice, to feel confident and free to express themselves, and to fight for their opinion. You know, don't just give me an opinion and walk away. Give me your thoughts and then argue for them. You know, don't just say it and go away. Say, this is what I think because A, B, C, and D. And it's these guys' jobs to try and convince me that what they're thinking is correct. It's my job to be open at all times. And together, we're going to come up with the right solution. Players, our team manager has been doing fantastic work these last few days. Almost everybody will convene, 99% of the group will convene in Morocco on Monday to begin training camp. There are 2 who will arrive slightly later. Omar Colley will arrive. Arranged engagement on Monday that we've agreed that he can do that, and Ibrahim Akali has a paperwork thing he's got to do in Italy to do with passports, and so he will be joining us later in the week. But everyone else is in as of Monday.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, good morning, coach. Once again, congratulations.
Thank you.
For your appointment as the new national team two questions. One is regarding Ablai Jallo. I think he's mentioned in the squad. Jallo recently, in the past few days, he has not been playing and he's also not training. Yesterday, in their playoff first leg against 2020, he missed the game due to a little injury that he's having. They'll be playing the second leg on Sunday, and the team is convening on Monday. I'm sure as far as the two that you mentioned is Marpoli and Ibrahim Poli, Ablai Jallo will be part of the team on Monday. So how sure are you that Ablai Jallo will be fully fit and ready to play these games against Seychelles and Gabon? The next question is about Jibril Silla, who is playing in Tanzanian League. He played quite a number of games, and this season he scored 20 goals and assists combined. One of our most informed players. So, but we are surprised that he's not in the list. Any justification?
Yep. So yeah, Ablai. We'll deal with Ablai first. So Ablai picked up a little knock a couple of weeks ago. He missed out the game against PSG, the final game of the season. He was playing right up until that, but didn't play the final game against PSG. And yeah, didn't play yesterday for Metz against Saint Etienne. He is in training. So he is, but he isn't 100% yet. There is the hope that he'll play in the second leg in the home game against Saint Etienne on Sunday. You'll notice we have a 24-man squad and not a 23-man squad, which is common. That is specifically for that reason, because we're not 100% on Ablai. We believe, having spoken to the guys over at Metz and the player himself, that Metz's hope is that he will take part in their game on Sunday. And if he does that, then we're all ready for him to fly out straight afterwards and join us the following day. That is in our planning, but we've also had contingency plans in the sense that we've named a 24-man squad and not a 23-man squad, because we understand there's a question mark. His injury's not serious, but it's just one of those ones that keeps you out for 1 or 2 weeks. It's not like some of the other guys who they're out for 6 weeks, and if you're out for 6 or 7 weeks, your fitness levels drop off significantly. Whereas missing 1 week of training, 10 days of training, whilst you're doing rehab with the physios and the rehab team, you're not losing your sharpness, you're not losing your fitness levels. So that's where we are with Ablai. Jibril is doing really well in Tanzania. He's in the cup final this weekend against Yanga. We wish him all the best. And yeah, he's on our radar. I spoke and why is he not involved? Levels is the answer. So, I would suggest, the other players in that position, like let's look at the other players. You've got Musa Barrow, you've got Musa Jawara, who's had a great end of the season. You've got Aliou Federa, who's had a great season. Yankuba Minte, who's been one of the players of the year in the Netherlands. Ablai, who we've obviously just mentioned. And then Ibrahim Macaulay, who's just won the championship in Switzerland. So my question would be, yes, we understand that Jibril Silla is doing really well, but in order to include Jibril, we've got to leave out one of the guys I've just named on the list. And so the question is, do you leave out Yankuba? Do you leave out Musa? Either of the Musas? So we understand, and this is the challenge of putting a national team. And maybe another coach makes a different decision. Maybe another coach says, hey, that list of 5 or 6 players, we're going to leave one of them out, we're going to take Jibril. Yeah? But for me, and you've got to remember, I've just come from East Africa, okay? And the Tanzanian league, if I were to rank all of the leagues in Africa, 1 through 50, 52, the Tanzanian league would probably be in the mid-20s. The top teams, Simba and Yanga, are spending a huge amount of money, and they're doing well in the Champions League. And Azam have a good budget as well, and actually have done really well to finish second in the league ahead of Simba. But that's a big result for them. But in general, the Tanzanian league would be in the mid-20s in Africa. And so he's doing well, we're tracking him, but when I compare him to the other players and the amount of minutes they're getting at top tier leagues, the Swiss top division, the French top division, the Belgian top division, the Dutch top division, some of them playing in the Europa League, etc., my decision was not this time. But that doesn't mean come September I won't make a different decision.
Thank you, Coach. Let's take another question, and maybe that will be one of the last two questions, if that is possible. Any other question? Looks like coach has exhausted everything. Any query? Any doubt? Any question? We wrap it up here.
Okay.
That's right. Coach, thank you very much. Maybe you can just wrap it up with any other thing that has not been asked and you want to add it up to the...
Not really. It's just maybe for, as I said, it's the media are a conduit for information, but not just for, I talk to all these players one-on-one on the phone, etc., and, via messaging. And it's, what we do today is not necessarily what we will do tomorrow. Yeah? I think that's the nature of international football, is that, and I hope you will agree, that the team, by and large, are all playing regular minutes. There's probably more minutes in the offensive half of the field than in the defensive half, but also when you see the injury list, you maybe understand that we've got to go deeper into our player pool in some of the defensive positions. But it's an opportunity for people to perform, and for those guys who've missed out this time, the encouragement is there, is keep working, because we're watching, and over the summertime we're going to be assessing a number of players, and if you weren't involved this time around, the opportunity will be there in September, October, November. But equally, it's a message to the players who are in the team that you cannot relax. Just because you have been picked in the first squad of a new era does not mean that you're not contracted to the national team. We're not signing a 4-year contract with you that you will be in every camp. You must be fit, you must be playing, you must be performing. And if you're doing that, you give yourself the best chance of playing for the Scorpions. It doesn't guarantee you your place, but it gives you the best chance. And that's how we go forward.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. And
Thank
before
you.
we wrap up, we want to thank you once again for coming. Okay, so it's like this. They are our mouthpiece to be able to reach to the general public, and we do hope that continuously we will enjoin the national team in its crusade against Seychelles and also Gabon next week. Thank you very much. We'll now have a photo session, coach and the backroom staff, and that will wrap up the whole session.